Isbell?
Yes.
Wiley?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Pearl?
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
Bobbin?
Yes.
Okay, and our agenda is approved. Moving on, we've got citizens' comments up next, and I believe Greg Beeson wishes to address the board.
Right now, you can't see if I'm smiling at you, although I am actually smiling at you. I'm here tonight. I'm concerned for our school district. I was contacted by a parent a few weeks ago that their child does not think that anyone else in his class likes him. And I was concerned because I wanted to find out why. Of course, my son is in his class. So I questioned my son. I said, do you like this little boy that's in your class? Yeah, we play at recess, Daddy. So we questioned the mom a little bit more and come to find out the reason why this boy thinks that no one likes him is because no one smiles at him. Just like you couldn't tell if I was smiling at you tonight, that little boy is in first grade. Can't tell either. My question to the school board is, what is our policy, or what is going to be the policy? Do we have a policy to where the masks are going to become something that is lessened or gotten rid of completely? I understand the safety and satisfaction of all involved, and I'm also not, let me make this very clear, I am not anti-mask, although I do know there are people in our community that are. There's also people in our community that want us to wear masks, although they're going places and doing things, and even showing up at school events, not wearing masks. I was asked a question by my neighbor who asked the same question. What's the policy going to be for what's the school board's policy on masks to eliminate them or to completely eliminate them? I asked a member of the school board that same question, and the answer I got back was when the state of Iowa reaches 3%. Now, I could have misunderstood the question, or I could have misunderstood the answer, and I do take responsibility if I did misunderstand that answer. However, though, in doing my research, as I was taught as an alumni of Mount Pleasant Community School District, I need to do my homework. So I did. I talked to Eric, or maybe Derek Heights of the Iowa Department of Education. He informed me he's never heard of 3%. I asked him who's in charge of my school district. I hope that our school board was. I hope that the Iowa Department of Education is certainly not involved from a state level in what we do. I know they are involved, but I want that to be a local decision. He informed me that he's never heard of 3%, and it is a school board decision. I was happy to hear that. Although I didn't think that was good enough, I decided to contact the governor's office as well. I talked to Linda Fandel, Education Policy Advisor to the governor. Talked to her actually 2 separate times in the same day. She wanted to check with the Iowa Department of Education to make sure that what I was asking was either true or not true, because she'd never heard of 3% across the state to eliminate masks as a percent. She contacted me back that same day and notified me that A, she had never heard of it, her colleague had never heard of it, and the Iowa Department of Education had still not heard of it. Again, I'm not against masks. The positivity rate as of today is 463. I did check with Shelley Van Dorn. That number goes back to March. Also, as of 2018, Henry County has a citizen resident level of 20,067. So it's quite a big number, but Henry County is at 14.1%. That is a 2-week total. We do know where some of that positivity is coming out of, one being the prison system right now. So my question is, the school board, is what is going to be our policy moving forward in a safe manner for all involved, because there are people on both sides of the spectrum, people who are incredibly fearful and afraid and think we should probably be locked in our homes, and there's the other side of the folks where they think we should do whatever we want and live our lives like nothing is going on. I do believe COVID-19 is a real disease and should be taken cautiously. But we have policies in place to go to hybrid learning or even go to a complete online learning system. I just asked the school board again, what will be our policy to remove masks when that is deemed necessary? Thank you.
things that you may have noticed. There was a couple of bills. One was from electronic engineering. It was for just about $16,000. Those are for our new bus cameras. So when we actually do get the buses, instead of we didn't bid them with the cameras from the company. We wanted that done locally. We've had better success locally with the installation and taking care of those cameras. So that was electronic engineering. And then the other bill that you may have noticed that you didn't see, or you wouldn't normally see, was the some of that furniture that we outfitted our conference room in that back room there at central office. So those are just a couple of things that I noticed as I was looking through the bills.
And I'll just add that the financials are not included because it's pending the audit that will take place later this week. There's a virtual audit, which is new for not only our auditors, but also ourselves and the central office staff. And so I've been busy downloading reports for them. And so it'll be a new experience, but the day is supposed to be Thursday, and they will contact me with questions.
Now, I did have a question. I think I know the answer. It was kind of towards the top of one of those financial sheets because it's alphabetical. But I saw a set of several bills for filters and maintenance of the filter systems. Is that one per each building so that we can continue to maintain our fresh air exchange in all the buildings?
So I would have to look specifically to make sure, Martha, but I believe the answer would be yes. We change the filters in all of our fresh air systems twice a year. We contract with a company to do that.
Well, I thought that's what I was seeing because I could count out
Yeah.
the number of bills and that kind of matched the number of buildings we were receiving.
Yeah, I can check with Mark.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is. It's like John said, semi-annual maintenance, and there's replacement of filters in each of the buildings.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Ed, roll call?
Sandersfeld,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Crowe,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Maher. Yes.
Moving on to reports, we've got Katie Gavin up first on our preschool.
Good evening. So, our youngest kids have joined the fray, and we're excited to have them on campus. So some of the changes for preschool, they started last Tuesday, right after Labor Day weekend. But we'll notice some changes, definitely. First of all, we have a lower enrollment. Last year, we hovered between 100 and 110 students. This year, we're at 79. And we know that we have heard parents up until that day call us and say, you know what, I'll wait till second semester, or since this isn't a mandatory thing for the state, we're not sending our student. A handful, not a lot, but a few did opt for that. So our enrollment is a little bit lower. We have 6 general ed sections like we had in the past, so that didn't change, but we have 15 or fewer students in each section. We still maintain 2 sections of our developmental preschool. Last year was right around 110 total students. We have 11 Salem students being bused to Van Allen. And this decision, Mr. Henderson and I went back and forth. We talked with teachers, we talked with parents, because Salem, that one section of preschool took an entire classroom. And if we did need to go to hybrid, or we did need to have a quarantine room or an extra space, preschool took that up. At that point in time, we also only had about 5 students registered from Salem for preschool. So we did make that decision to bus them in and communicated with transportation and those families about that process. It's going well. Mrs. Patton gets on the bus at middle school with them and rides back to Van Allen. The drivers have been phenomenal. Everything is going fairly smoothly. Again, really hard to think about a 4-year-old for some of us getting onto those big buses, but they're handling it well. this year is that we have a new developmental preschool teacher, Mrs. Heron. She has students in the system and is working on her special ed degree. She's doing a great job. Really pleased with how the students are responding to her and her teamwork. The home visits that we usually do for preschool started, instead of in the homes, we had parents come on the campus to do those meetings. Every year, the preschool teacher and the associate go into the homes, do home visits, meet the child in their comfortable environment, and have just a brief meeting. This year, we asked families to come in just to protect the health and safety of all. We have more control of the cleanliness in the environment by doing that. By the time you get to kindergarten, we had some changes there as well. They started home visits on August 24th and 25th. It's something new for them. They invited families, because remember last year we didn't get to do kindergarten roundup. We didn't get to do some of those things due to the pandemic. So this year they wanted to meet families and bring them on campus, show them the classroom, and have those meetings in more one-to-one setting. Again, mitigation strategies all the way around. So they took those first 2 days of school to meet with all of their parents across all 4 buildings. They even met with some of the remote kindergarten families. So you can imagine what it's like to have a brand new school, brand new teacher, brand new building, and I've never been to school before, except for maybe a half-day preschool. It's a bit of a challenge. We do have several kindergarten remote families with us. They actually, when they were doing those meetings, got to meet and learn how to do Canvas and have a mini session at that point. And many parents took advantage of that, which was exciting. So then we, instead of assigning those direct classrooms, we had half the kids come in on an A-day, B-day schedule and get to know them, review them, observe them, how do they interact, do we see a balance of different things within the classroom to have that year go as smoothly as possible. And so they took several days to do that. Half the kids one day, half the kids the next day. Got to train them in a more one-on-one setting, which also helps, teaching kids to line up, to sit in specific spaces, and then of course add in wearing a mask and washing hands more frequently or using hand sanitizer. All are very new for our 5 and 6-year-olds. So those processes took us a little bit longer, but have been definitely worth it. Those are the biggest changes in our 4-year-old and our kindergarten. Any questions?
Was there much pushback with the 11 students coming from Salem to Van Allen?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Was there much pushback with the students from Salem coming to Van Allen?
I wouldn't say that there was pushback other than fear of the unknown. So by the time we talked to Ted and Anna Carlson and got to parents, we had a pretty good plan of the kids are sitting behind the bus driver, and here is their bus driver, and here's the route. This is when they start. They get picked up. We talked through it, and it wasn't pushback. It was just, I'm sending my 4-year-old on a bus. It's that parental fear, but they're doing beautifully. And some parents chose to drive their students in. They completely understood the choice to have that extra space at Salem in case we have to go to hybrid or in case something changes and they need that extra room. And we're very supportive of that.
Katie, I have a question not pertaining to preschool or kindergarten, but with several weeks in now, how is our remote learning? What's the feedback on that from our teachers, our parents, our students? How is that? How well is that working?
It's working well to the point that it can. This is not a smooth or easy process, and we're learning as we go. Our teachers are incredible. They're working very hard. Our instructional coaches are supporting them. Everybody is doing the best they can, and we are learning a lot as we go. I haven't heard that parents in remote learning have had big concerns or upsets. We've had 4 families decide to put their kids back face to face, which is great. We know that it's easier for us to educate students that way. I won't say it's smooth sailing. It's hard because that's not our natural state, but it's going okay.
I would agree, Josh. I think it's been an incredible learning process, especially for our teachers. They've done the yeoman's work on trying to be prepared, get things prepared, and it just hasn't been easy. It's been new, so we're learning as we go, and I think we'll continue to learn as we go, and then assess as we go what things we would do differently, what things we need to continue to support. So yeah.
So I guess I asked because I have had some feedback from parents, teachers, and I know you hear the negative part of it, but a lot of it is with teachers, it's just been way too much time has been spent outside of the classroom from this remote learning, setting it all up, being with those students. I mean, we're talking late into the evening hours with no family time. And then for parents, it's been just the online curriculum or the information that's online is just terrible, and they can get on. It's an hour of school, and then they're done for the day, and there's not much instruction to go with it. So I guess that's why I bring it up on our end, because this is what I'm hearing, that I feel as though it should probably pass on to get that stuff correct.
Well, I would say, and I'll let Katie speak again too, I would say some of those things that have been shared with you, those comments, I'm not surprised by those comments. We're trying to work a lot of that out. We're trying to work a lot of it out for the elementary and for the secondary. So it's new, you know, it's very new, and it's been a big challenge. There's a lot of elements to this. It's not, I don't mean to trivialize, it's not that you flip a switch because every kid has a device and all of a sudden they can do remote learning. It's been a very challenging process. And we'll continue to try and refine it and get better.
As long as we're able to provide for teachers that support, that now that with several weeks under us, and we're still getting stories of late nights of working with no family time, what can we do to help that? What can we as a board or the district do to help those teachers so that they do have that family time again? And it's not, you go to school at 7 o'clock and you come home and you have your online learning or whatever you're doing until late at night. What support are we giving them? And then again, with those students, not better indication that I would want, I being on the board, would want that at-home student receiving from our district. So,
I think a lot of it goes back to understanding the difference between online learning and face-to-face learning. You talk to our students in college who got flipped from a classroom to face-to-face or to remote instantly, and what that looks like isn't minute per minute in a seat and minute to minute in front of a screen. So some of those things we've had to talk to families about and tell them, this environment doesn't look like your classroom. The other thing we've had to talk to families about is that this environment doesn't look the same across every teacher's classroom. So if you have a couple of students at a variety of grade levels, you might have more homework or more work to do that takes you 2 hours one day and 30 minutes the next day. It's very variable at all levels. And so we continue to have those conversations and help people understand that. The other piece is teachers are spending a lot of time working with those families and those students who are struggling to motivate their kids to log in and to do the homework. And so part of that time is back with that family responsibility. We had all families sign a contract that they agreed to do this. And because we had the experience of it being optional in the spring, it's hard to fight that battle and get that back into an ingrained habit within 2 weeks of school start, being back in school. So there's just a steep learning curve for families, for teachers, and for all of us as we support that. As far as teachers who are going to you, I'm more than happy to support teachers in any way that I possibly can. I want them to talk to me. how we solve through that.
Anyone else? Thank you, Steve. Superintendent's report?
Okay, several things from the superintendent's report. The first thing that I want to mention is the instructional support levy renewal information. So let me pull that up quickly. So next month in October, I will have this on the agenda for you to approve, or I'm going to ask you to approve a public hearing so that the public can make comments on the instructional support levy and then potentially vote on that in November. So here's some of the information that we talked about as a finance committee, given the questions that we received from our attorney. So the renewal to the school board was, we're asking you to approve this for 5 years, this instructional support levy from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 26. So it's a 5-year board-approved ISL, instructional support levy. The district, after having a lot of communication about this at the finance committee, the district will authorize the levy at 10%. That's the recommendation from the finance committee. That's what will be in the language. 10% of the previous year's regular program dollars. Now you can make a final determination up to that 10% at the time of budget certification. So whatever you decide to do when we certify the budget in the spring, you can do you can do any percentage up to 10%. And so it gives us some flexibility when we go to certify the budget. The ISL will continue to be funded with a combination of income surtax and property tax. Had conversation about all of this at the finance committee level. That's their recommendation. The funds will be able to be used for any general fund purpose. The public hearing will be set at the October school board meeting for vote at the November 9th, 2020 meeting. And then the notice of the public hearing will be published in the Southeast Iowa Union. Those are all the questions that our attorney needed answers to. That's what our finance committee decided and the recommendations that they have for you for October. So that's the ISL. Kind of continuing in that vein just a little bit. We've talked a lot about the penny sales tax revenue estimates. As you know, the penny sales tax is a statewide sales tax that's distributed to schools on a per pupil basis. And then the uses of the penny sales tax can be for anything, it's the same as the physical plant and equipment levy. Anything that you can do in the physical plant and equipment levy, that's what you can use for the sales tax revenue. So we do a lot of our buildings and grounds updates, our technology updates, transportation, buses, those kinds of things. So much of that comes out of our penny sales tax revenue, statewide penny sales tax. So we were cautious going forward because we weren't sure what the virus COVID was going to do with people's spending, purchasing, because it's all related to that. So we went over this with the finance committee, and I won't go through each month. It's distributed monthly. But you can see here in fiscal year 20, the year that we just finished, in fiscal year 20, just over 1.9 million was what we received in penny sales tax revenue. And the estimates now, these are estimates, for this year that we're currently in is 1.8418 million. So it's down not quite $100,000. And I told Ed I was pleasantly surprised at that. If those funds come in as is estimated, we can do the things that we normally do with those funds. So those are estimates for this fiscal year, that's good news. Okay. So we do have a scheduled work session for 2 weeks from tonight. And what I'd like to do with you there, I've talked a lot about reviewing proposed changes to the Return to Learn plan, specifically for the hybrid learning model. And so I've had some committee conversation about that, and I'd like to go over that with you as a full board in case we ever needed to change our instructional model. So we'll do that on the 21st. Oh, 28th. Should be the 28th. Thank you. That's my mistake. Should be the 28th. Don't show up here next Monday night. All right. The number 4, Return to Learn regional update. So the Great Prairie superintendents, get together via Zoom on a weekly basis. And we discuss, what's happening in our school districts. We kind of bounce things off one another. How are you dealing with this? Mostly as it relates to the COVID virus. So we do a lot of discussion on that. So one of the questions that got asked this last week, and they put it to a survey, what are you guys doing on some of these things that are related to COVID? So I just thought I'd share it with you. So this is a data form, a survey that was sent out to all of the districts. There are 33 districts in Great Prairie, and a little bigger if I can. There are 33 districts in Great Prairie, so you can see all of the districts that responded here. I don't know why. I was going to call the superintendent at Albia and ask him, well, how come you get to put in 2 responses? So I think Kevin just got carried away there. Anyway, so it's a good number of responses, obviously. 33 districts in Great Prairie and 31 districts responded. So the first question was, are you currently requiring face coverings for staff? So you can see there were 31 responses, and almost 68% said yes, they are requiring face coverings, and 32.3% is no across the area. Are you currently requiring face coverings for students? There were 30 responses to that, and you can see 56.7 responded yes, face coverings are required for students, and 43.3% said no, they're not required, but highly recommended. What delivery model are you currently in? So they asked this question, what are you in your elementary, what are you in middle school, what are you in high school? So you can see 24 of the responses for the elementary, they're in a face-to-face, 100% face-to-face learning model, and a few of them are in a hybrid model for elementary. That changes a little bit when you get to the middle school. 19 of the responses were 100% face-to-face, a few more are in hybrid, and then it changes even just a little bit more. 17 of the high schools are in 100% face-to-face, and 14 are in a hybrid model. So the question after that then, are you thinking of shifting? 71% said no, and there were a few that said yes and maybe, and they answered down here. If yes, to which model? Now, we could talk about the data. I would say in the conversation with the superintendents on the Zoom, a number of them started the year in a hybrid model, especially for secondary, high school and middle school, and they were thinking of shifting back to a face-to-face. So you can see here, you had 2 that are, most of the elementaries were face-to-face anyway, and a few that weren't, a couple were going to switch back to face-to-face, one to hybrid perhaps, and one to virtual. And then the middle school, if yes, the 4 of them were going to go to face-to-face, and a couple others were going to go the other direction, and then same with the high schools. So, and then finally in this, There were 22 responses. If you chose hybrid, that's kind of been a lot of the conversation. What does your model look like? And it's just, you know, the superintendent's responding as per their district. We have an A group on Monday and Thursday, and a B group on, an A group on Monday and Tuesday, a B group on Thursday and Friday, and then they alternate every Wednesday. This superintendent said we got 80 groupings and 50% of the students each day. This one's all models will look different depending on the situation showed. So it gives you just a couple of insights as to what other districts are doing. This one's every other day, 50%, and a lot of this was at the secondary where they were doing the A or B or 50%. So I thought it would just be interesting. That's what's happening across Great Prairie. So, all right. And then the last thing I have in the superintendent's report, I wanted to make you aware, and please put on your calendars, January 25th is a regularly scheduled work session. And what we want to do, talking to Jennifer, our board president, on this, we've invited Harry Heiligenthal from the Iowa Association of School Boards to that meeting to take us through a board development session. It's a kind of a 2-hour process, and we would go through some of the needs and the direction that the board would like to go. How do we get there? What do we need to set as goals? So Harry has done this many, many times. He's been with IASB for many years, and I think it'll be good. It'll be a good process to go through and get some good direction going forward. So January 25th, there'll be a work session. We'll do that. And that is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Don. Moving on, we have our board committee reports, which you have a printout in your packet. Don, is there anything you want to point out from the committee reports?
Yeah, thanks for asking. There's one thing that I want to just discuss briefly with the entire board, and this was from the site committee, and we're inching forward on Van Allen and the exterior of Van Allen. And I put a picture in your packet, and I'll pull it up here. As you know, we had the exterior assessment done on Van Allen. That was done by Woodruff Construction, and then we had Shive Hattery architects and engineers come in. They took a look at some of the inside the wall, what's happening inside the wall. It was determined that we don't have a mold problem, we don't have a wetness problem inside the walls, so that's a very good thing. So now we can consider how we start to move on and take care of the exterior of Van Allen. So what we talked about as a site committee was this section right here. Of course, this is the east side of Van Allen, and this is really the worst section of masonry that we have. And so what we would like to do is, one of the solutions was to go with panels, to go ahead and cover the existing masonry with panels. That was a Shive Hattery solution. It was kind of an expensive solution to go all the way around. In fact, it was more expensive than some of the general estimates that we got for masonry in replacing the actual brick on Van Allen. So what we would like to do is from here on this east side, from the entrance, from here over to here, which is if you're inside, that's the end of the media center, that section there. And so we'd like to this summer make plans to remove this masonry, remove all of this, remove this soldier course, this whole section right here, And we'd like to get an idea of how difficult that is. We'd like to have a local mason do this and see how difficult it is, and then make a decision on, yeah, we think we could go ahead and do this, the rest of this in brick, or we really need to start looking at, the panels and going around with the panels. So what we would like to, I'm not asking you to make a decision tonight, other than the recommendation from the site committee is to go ahead and have Shive Hattery draw up the details of what this section up here, where the wall meets the roof, what that would look like, and how we would tackle that, and go ahead and have that drawn up so we could potentially, as I say, go ahead and replace this section of brick over here and see how tough that is and what it's going to look like. And I would definitely suggest that as we do that, as part of the plan, we need to get this cement here taken care of. We need to get the guttering into the tile system, which we're prepared to do all of that. So that would be the next steps for Van Allen.
Question about the guttering. Right now it's concealed. What will it look like? Or are you waiting to kind of see what they're...
Yeah, I would say, Martha, that'd be something that we would lean on the architects, the engineers for that. Obviously, the issues have come because it sits on top of the wall, and we would like to have it affixed to the outside of the wall and go from there. So
We want it to look nice, but we don't want it to tear up the next exterior surface.
That's exactly right. I mean, we need to address the problem, and so it's not a problem anymore.
And they understand that.
Yes, yeah. So that's kind of what we're thinking about how we move forward on this. It'd give us a real good look on how hard that is, and then it also, just like I said, this is the worst area of brick, and we could tackle that and then go from there. So, okay, that's all I had on that.
Is there any other board communication? Okay, moving on to consent items. You have your personnel and open enrollment?
Yes.
Yes, both of those are there. Any questions with that?
Make a motion to approve the personnel and open enrollment.
Second.
Ed, roll call?
Sandstone,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Pearl,
Yes.
Flint,
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Okay, those are approved. We have no unfinished business, so we'll move us on to new business. Up first, under new business, is our second reading with the recommendation for board policy 105, discrimination and harassment based on sex prohibited, or Title IX.
Okay, so this is the second reading, and no changes since our last meeting. Again, this is federal policy. It was the language of this was done it was actually done for every school district in the state by Allers Law Firm, which is our law firm, and so we know the language is right, and I would recommend that you approve it.
I move that we approve this section 105, discrimination and harassment based on sex, as an addition to our policies.
Second.
Ed, roll call?
Sandstone,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Pearl,
Yes.
Flint,
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Up next is we'll be opening board policy series 400, which is staff and personnel.
Yeah, so next month, I'll have for you any recommendations on changes to Board Policy Series 400, which is personnel. I'll review those, and then I'll go through the School Board Association recommendations, or if they have any recommendations, and I'll bring those to you.
So up next for consideration is the increase in substitute pay.
Okay. So currently, our substitute teacher pay, our current rate is $115 per day. We were asked by one of the board members, could we do a regional, or could we do a comparison on that, and consider if we need to increase that. So we put the comparison together. In your packet, the schools that are in the blue, those are schools that are in Great Prairie, and the other schools are part of the human resources group that Tanya Stutzman has access to. So that's why those other districts are in there. The recommendation from the Finance Committee is to increase the substitute teacher pay by $10 from $115 a day to $125 a day. So you can see, if we do that, where that puts us in comparison to some of the other regional districts. So the Finance Committee's recommendation is to move that $10 to $125.
Is there any other discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Ed, roll call?
Sandersville,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that increases our substitute pay then to $125. Up next is the consideration for the approval of the 2021 elementary handbook.
So, and I apologize because the handbook for elementary wasn't ready in June. We still had a few more formatting things to do. And then it completely went off my radar in July and August. And Lori LaFrenz, she met with our policy committee, went through the very minor changes in the elementary handbook. But I thought we better get that approved because we use that frequently. So the recommendation from the policy committee was to go ahead and approve the elementary handbook. So I would recommend as a full board that you approve.
Is there any further discussion on the elementary handbook?
I move to approve the 2020-2021 elementary.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ed, roll call?
Sandersville,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Bonner.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on is the consideration of the 2020-2021 fundraisers.
Okay, and so I went through the fundraisers with the policy committee a little over a week ago. So I asked our principals, I asked our activities director, please take a look at the list, let me know what might need to come off the list. And honestly, with everything that's going on, this is more of a tentative list, based on what we might be able to do with COVID. I know that, and I've checked with some of the sponsors. Some of the sponsors are intending to try and do this fundraising, but we'll see as that time comes. But I would recommend that as a tentative list that you approve the 2020-2021 fundraisers.
Any other discussion? I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the list of potential fundraising activities.
Second?
Second.
Ed, roll call?
Sandersville,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Flynn, Bonner.
Yes.
Next, we have the review of the 2020-2021 proposed superintendent action plan.
Okay, yeah, so I wanted to go over with you what I would propose as a plan for the superintendent to move forward this year. As I mentioned to you, to be honest, there's not a lot of expansion in this plan. And again, just to be honest, the things that have been related to the virus they take a lot of their own action in planning specifically, and so to move forward outside and really in leaps and bounds say, hey, we want to do this, we want to do this. I'm just cautious on the things that we can do and get done. I do have in here, I'll go all the way to the bottom, is because I've listed to participate with the board in a school board development session and a goal setting session facilitated by IASB. I think that's going to produce some, I'm hopeful that will produce good fruit when we do that. Something that we haven't been through before. So I'm excited to see what that will bring about. So my goals and my activities this year, some of you or most of you would be familiar with a lot of the things that are on here already. I have already scheduled with the principals to conduct collaborative conversations with each principal regarding their professional development process and the action plans in their buildings. I've got those scheduled for September, where we will go over their initial plans. And that's every principal, including Mr. Rogers at Wisdom Quest, Mr. Lamb, and the administrative group. It takes about an hour for each one of those meetings. So well, I've got approximately 45 minutes, but I can tell you it takes more like an hour as we get into the conversation. So it's a big chunk of time. I've told you before, it's really, I think for me, it's one of the best investments that I can make in the principals, because my time with them to try and help them and improve what they do I think it's time well spent as we move forward. So it's not an insignificant chunk of time. It takes time each month to do this. So, but to me, it's well worth it. So I would like to leave that on there. The other thing that I have on here that you have seen before, we got about let's see, we quit in March, or we had a shutdown in March, so we got about 5 or 6 chapters into our Be the One for Kids book study. It was going really well. The principals were leading a chapter from the book each month, and I'm excited to get that started again. We'll be doing, I will kick that off this month in September. We meet twice a month as a team. And so I'll kick that off for the next chapter in September on the Be the One for Kids book study. One thing that we did not get to last year was to implement a level of 360-degree evaluation for all administrative team members. We had that ready to go. We were right on the cusp of getting those sent out.